And welcome back to Good Morning Lewis. We are here joined by two very special guests, head coach of men's and women's volleyball team. We have Coach Dan Friend of the men's team and Coach Lorelee Smith of the women's team. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Lewis.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for having us.
You as well. Thank you very much. You are the official, I think, Lewis couple of the day today. So you want to tell us a little bit how you guys first met and kind of how it took off?
Yes. Well, ultimately we met around volleyball. So we were at a coaches convention, and I happened to notice Lorelee across the way, as any young male does. Do you know what I mean in terms of that? So she actually had a sweatshirt on of a school that I had coached against as an assistant coach called Central Missouri State, and I was like, so it gives me a talking point. Do you know what I mean? So I introduced myself and. Honestly, I'm not sure she remembered me after that conversation, but that was okay. And then down the road, a few months later, I was out recruiting. She was out recruiting because she was the current assistant coach at Central Missouri. I was at Newman as a head coach, and kind of saw my in again where I could go up and say hi. And I had actually done the old MySpace thing where I looked her up, you know what I mean, and say, creepy guy, I guess. But ultimately, so I had found out she liked beach volleyball, outdoor volleyball. So I had a conversation point topic, I thought. So I walked up, introduced myself. I don't think she really remembered me, which was okay during the time. But said, hey, do you want to play a tournament with me? So we ended up playing a tournament, and really kind of started our relationship. That was that summer before I got the Lewis job. And ultimately, we started dating a little bit, doing some things together. And I got the Lewis job. She was the assistant at Central Missouri State, and she was like, I'm not sure long distance will work. I said, we'll figure it out. And so we kept dating and kept kind of figuring things out. It was about 7 hours away. I remember making that drive a few times from Romeoville to Warrensburg, Missouri a couple times. And so the nice thing is my family is from Topeka, Kansas, so I got to see them at the same time a few times. But and ultimately the job at Lewis opened up after Karen retired, and Lorelee got that job, and we had been engaged by then, and so, I don't know, 15 years later, it's been pretty awesome. So.
Wow, see, that's great. Seeing that story about how you had to do long distance and you can make it work and do all that too. There you go, a real love story there.
Thanks.
So guys, now that you're both at Lewis coaching, what's kind of your favorite part of working together at Lewis and coaching Lewis teams together?
I think from a schedule standpoint, with your life, and we have a daughter, if you work together, it's so much easier to just plan things out. There was a point where we got to drive into work together, we had to drive home. Doesn't really work that way now, but if you need to make an adjustment in your schedule, they're just right down the hall. You can go talk to him. I do go to him for a lot of advice. Things like that wouldn't happen if we were at the same place.
Yeah, I mean, you guys find it difficult at all to work together? I mean, you're spending a lot of time together. You're working together, you're living together. Do you ever find any challenges with that?
Well, I think the COVID year was, because both our seasons were at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So that was a time where, usually what happens is I'm in season now, she's getting her off season, and then when she's in season, I'm in off season. So there was a little bit of balance. She'll be gone a weekend, I have Ray the whole weekend. I was gone this last week, and she has Ray. So we get that balance of you're really maybe not on top of each other as much as you want to in terms of kind of the weekend space sometimes. But that COVID year, we were both traveling, trying to manage Ray. That was difficult. So I could see if we were both in season at the same time, but I think the balance is us being out of season, so it kind of helps out a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, it probably builds a nice, strong relationship too, spending all that time together.
Well, we eat, breathe, and sleep volleyball, so we do that all. And even in the summer, we're both avid, doing a lot of beach stuff and grass stuff and things like that. So I think it's one of those things that's part of our life, and the fact that we both have that passion, I think, makes it pretty easy, because I don't know that there's time we're not really talking about it at some point. You know what I mean in terms of that.
Right, you're talking about volleyball, how you guys love volleyball, beach volleyball. So is that one of your favorite things to do outside of Lewis and coaching? You guys like to play volleyball together?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not together.
But
then we tend to, blame each other sometimes. But we both like to go, and he'll play with the guys, and I'll play with the girls, and it ends up being just like a nice day outside.
Yeah, I think in the summer we do it quite a bit. I think during the year probably not as much, just in the terms of just downtime for us. I think Ray becomes a pretty big focus for us now that we've had her. She's going on 6, but we tend to spend a lot of time with her when we can and do different things from that standpoint, because the free time is far and they're few between a little bit in terms of that. So yeah.
Yeah, who do you think's more competitive out of you two when you play together?
She is. Well, I might be outwardly, but I think she's still more competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm quieter.
Quiet in terms of that. But we don't play together very much. We used to play together a bunch, but I just think we've gotten smarter as we've gotten older, you know what I mean, in terms of that. So it's like, why create something that you don't need to sometimes? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
We were good when we played together, and then we lost one. So then
We got older.
So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I guess mentioning your daughter too. I know there's she's a foundation, the Ray Strong Foundation. Want to tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so ultimately, the people that don't know, and you see some of the Ray Strong floating around in T-shirts or bands, ultimately we created this foundation to help micro-preemie families. Ray was born at 1 pound 8 ounces at 24 weeks and was in the NICU for 115 days. And so initially we used to have a preemie game for both the women's season and the men's season. We would give the money back to Loyola Hospital. That's where she was born, the NICU she was at. And a couple years into that, we were like, well, how do we do something a little bit more? And that's where the Ray Strong Foundation came up. And the board members, a lot of them are like Lewis affiliated, whether Lewis alumni. Rudy was an assistant coach for here. The 1 or 2 members who aren't are Dan Fiorito, who his son was born at 22 weeks, and Cheryl Petty, where both her sons played here. And so like we created this board and this foundation, and ultimately the money fundraised goes to help other micro-preemie families, hospitals, as well as organizations that help families as well. And so we run anywhere between 5 or 6 events a year, distribute the money as best we can in terms of that. We always do like holiday packages for nurses and things like that. And so it's been a neat way to give back and help educate, maybe help families sometimes. But yeah, we'll have the preemie game actually coming up February 22nd versus Loyola. So we'll have that. And we're actually giving to a foundation called Lily's List. So you can check them out as well online. But yeah.
So if people would like to help support that foundation, how can they go about it?
So they can go to raystrong.org, and that's raestrong.org, and basically the donation link is on there, and they can donate. And then actually Jake Wallinga, who is an alumni, played for us. He runs the whole website and everything, which is great. And so, but that's a way for them to kind of check out, read some of the stories, and donate if they'd like to. They can also volunteer time, things like that. So there's a couple different ways to help out.
Cool. So one final question. I know you are the official Lewis couple of the day. What are some? Do you have any advice for any college students, who might be trying to get into a relationship or have success in a relationship?
You do realize like we're almost in our 50s, right?
You've been together a while.
She has a good one, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I had a friend and she gave me this advice, and she said every person that you date, make sure the one after has all the good qualities of the one you just had, and you drop at least one bad quality. That way you just, eventually you'll find the right person. As long as you stay on that path. It was really good advice.
Yeah, I don't think I'm beating that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's some quality advice. I think I lied. One more question. Okay. Do you have any big plans for Valentine's Day?
Well, we did Valentine's this morning already because Ray couldn't wait. And she was like, I want to show, because she had made cards.
And you have late practice.
And I have late practice, so she had made cards and everything. And so it was about 20 minutes where we got to say I love you and share some cards. And I gave her a big bag of peanuts, which is always great to go to.
And peanut butter M&Ms.
Peanut butter M&Ms.
Those are my favorite.
So,
It's a 13-pound bag.
Oh my gosh.
Go big or go home. I guess so. It's good.
That's your advice of the day, I guess. Go big, go home. But yeah, thank you both for joining us. It's been a pleasure to be here on Good Morning Lewis.
Great. Thanks for having us, and happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.